Hi folks, this is the next lesson, chapter 1.2, and we are finally coming to the real programming. We already know what IDE is from last lessons about Android Studio, but for Kotlin basics we don't really need IDE. We will use awesome Kotlin Playground. Let's jump into it. In order to access Kotlin Playground, you need to visit this website, which is kotlinlang.org. So here we go. And what we are interested about this play section here. So let's press it, and here we have Playground. Playground is an line code editor, which is able to compile and execute your program. And here we see the predefined program, pre-written program. And the only purpose of this program is to write hello world in the output. So we can press this run button here and see what's gonna happen. Yeah, it was quick. And here we see the hello world message. So what actually happens when you press run button? When you press run button, first the compilation starts. Compilation is a process of translating something you write here in this code editor to the machine language, and computer can understand you. After compilation is successful, execution starts. Here we see something called function. This is a function which is called main, and the main function is actually the entry point to the program. What else do we have here? We have here this green text. This called comment. So comment is something not for computer, not for machine. This is something for you. So here you can write some useful messages to explain what is happening in some particular program. Usually program should be self-explanatory, like a book, but sometimes you just need to give a little bit more context to remind yourself in future what you wrote here and what is happening. So in order to write other comments, you can just use double slash and write here some message. For instance, here we should let yourself in future know that program starts. And after this, program executed. So as the result, we don't have any changes. When you press run, we see only the hello world as before. So what else do we have here? We have something called print. Print is actually another function which is already written by other developers, and the purpose of this function is to output or to print some message or information to the console. In our case, it's hello world. So this line executes the print function. We can obviously change our message. By the way, this thing in this parenthesis is a string. So print function requires a string as a message, and string is the first type we will learn today. Obviously, we can change it to something else, like hello Andri. Let's execute the code, and we see that our message was changed. Today we are going to talk about variables. Now let's try to create our first variable. In order to do it in Kotlin, we use keyword val. As you can see, it's highlighted. So this is a feature of IDE. Now we need to set a message, the name. In our case, it's going to be message. After that, using double dots, we will specify a type. As we already discussed, it's going to be string, our first type here. As you can see, there is a drop-down, which is a smart feature of most of the IDEs, which is helping developers to write code faster. Now we need to set a value to our variable. And we use double quotes, and in our case, it's going to be the same, hello Andrei. Okay, now we can replace this text to our variable in the parentheses. Something like this. Okay, let's try to execute our program. Obviously, nothing was changed. Now let's create some more variables. I would suggest to create representation of our personal information. So let's make it more handy. And let's rename our message to name. And now we can also create some variables which will represent some description of us. So it will be, for instance, age. As all you know, age is a number. To create number variable, we need other type, not a string. So the same as we did before, val, age as a name, double dots, and here we need int. Yeah. Congratulations, we created another variable. This is a numeric variable of type int. We can obviously also print it. Let's see. Oh, actually, this is a good use case which I wanted to show you. So as we don't have variable message anymore, our compiler cannot convert it to the machine, translate it to the machine code, because we have a mistake. And this means that our program cannot be executed. It cannot be compiled or translated, in other words. That's why program is not executing. So let's change message to name. Try again. And here we have our result printed. But it doesn't look good. Probably we just use the wrong function. So let's try this one. It's called println, which will just print the data or the information on the separate lines. Now it looks a little bit better. So what other numeric types do we have in Kotlin? So I want to represent, for instance, my height. Let's create another variable. And yeah, I think int should work here as well. So I have 180 centimeters. Then let's create a weight. And here we would need something else. Usually to represent weight, we need a number with dot, so a floating number. And for this purpose, we have a type called float. And let's write our weight, or my in this case. So we put dot here, and by syntax it is required to put f in the end, which says that this number is float number. Yeah, let's be more realistic. Yeah, said. But are these all the types which are representing numbers? It's actually not true. So we have even more. So for instance, for height or for real numbers, we have 4 more types. I'll show you. So here are the list of numeric types in Kotlin. We have 4 of them. First one is byte, second is short, int, and long. So the main difference between these numeric types is that they have ranges. So for instance, for byte, you can have only variables between -128 to 127. So for short, it's bigger range, and for int and for long, of course, even more bigger ranges. So where does it come from? Back then in programming, you had to be really careful with memory. So memory was limited, and you would need to use the proper type for proper variables. So nowadays, I would say it's not that important. It's just a matter of good taste to use the proper type. Let's try those types. Well, let's try a trick. We will change our height from int to byte. So as I showed before, byte is in the range between -128 to 127. And what will happen if we execute this code? So there is an error. The integer literal does not conform to the expected type byte, obviously because it's out of range. Let's change it back to int. You may ask, what kind of type should I use? And my answer will be mostly int. So I never saw somebody using short. Sometimes byte was used in some legacy code. Long is used more, but most of the time for numeric types you will use int. For types with the decimal part, there are also 2 types, and the difference between them is the precision. So for instance, I need to create another variable. Let's call it, I don't know, location longitude. And this type is gonna be double. And it will represent my location longitude, obviously. And here we would need some bigger precision, like more and more numbers. So for float, it's 7 digits after the dot, and for this type double is 15 digits. As you can see, 7 digits is more than enough. So you can obviously use float anytime, every time, or if you prefer to use double, you can use double. Obviously, double takes more memory, but in the modern programming, it doesn't really make any big difference. It's just a matter of taste. There are two more types I wanted to mention today. First one is type which is representing characters. Let's create a variable called currency, and this type is called char. And this is how it can be created. To be quite honest, I've never seen this type in modern programming, so I just show it that there is such type, and we will remove it, as we don't really. I'm pretty sure that you are not going to use it. And last but not least, very important type is called Boolean. Which has only two states. Let's create a variable called it's smart, and with type Boolean. So this type means that our variable can be only true or false. We will talk about this type of variables later, but obviously it has like really wide usage in the programming. Sometimes you need to check something, and sometimes your program can go different ways depending on those Boolean types. But for now, you already know that this type exists, and I would say it's more than enough. Good question would be, what can I do with those types? And answer is whatever you want. In this case, we can show this information to user. These types, they represent some information. So most of the time, we need to see this information. We can show height, weight, and probably we don't need the longitude. Let's keep it shorter. And we see the result here in the console. So what if I want to change the variable? I already created it, and for instance I want to change the age. So now I don't need to write val anymore, because variable is already created, and I do age, and I want to equalize it to another age, for instance 32. Obviously age can be changed in the real life, and this looks like a good example. So now, as you imagine, there should be 31, 180, 83.3, and then 32. Let's execute our code. And here we have an error, which is obvious, because if you use the val keyword, your variable cannot be reassigned or re-equalized. In Kotlin, if we know that this variable will be changed in future, we use another keyword. We use var. Now let's see what's gonna happen. Now everything works. So if you want to change the variable in future, use var. For all other cases, use val. Now it's a great time for task for you. So you already know how to create variable and how to change it or re-equalize it. I would suggest you to stop the video and try to change variable is smart from boolean, from false to true. So let's stop the video and do this small exercise. I hope you completed the exercise, but in case if you have some difficulties, we'll do it together. So we want to change variable is smart. First, we need to change keyword from val to var, which means that we are going to change the variable. And here we write is smart is equal to true. And let's print this variable. Is smart. Now we execute the code. Yeah, everything works as it should. But to be quite honest, this representation doesn't look really good. I mean, it's just some name or random string and some numbers, which we don't know what they actually mean. So we can set up the output as well. As we already know, output is a string message, and Kotlin has a super nice feature with string formatting. So here we can use the double quote and change this message to my name is and use $sign here. So this part will be printed exactly like we see here, but this part will just print the variable which is above. Let's check the result. See? It looks better. Now let's do the same for age. We use this double quotes and we write my age is $H. We run the program. Yeah, it took a bit longer, but the result is successful. So now I would again suggest to stop the video and do the same for height and weight and for the new age and for is smart. So see you soon. Yeah, I hope you completed this task. But in case if you have some difficulties, let's do it again together. So here we do double quotes. Let's make it shorter. Height is height. And here my weight is. Don't forget to close double quotes. And here, let's be more creative. I am now years old. And let's keep smart like it is. Let's execute the code. Yeah, everything looks great. Oh, wait a minute. Here we have some, we can call it bug actually. So we missed a space. Now let's execute again. Yes. Now it's perfect. So as you can see, output contains already some information. So let's imagine we have knowledge about some user interface, how to build user interface, and yeah, you know, it's already something. So this program shows our personal information, and yeah, if we would know this user interface, it could be a website, it could be small application already. So this is a start of our long journey, and I hope you like it so far. One of the biggest thing in programming in general is refactoring. Refactoring, as this is something when you improve your existing code base. You see the places where you can change something to make it better. And here I want to refactor this code a little bit, because Kotlin has some really nice features. So if you create a variable and you equalize it to some information, so you initialize this variable, you don't need to set the type. This is a great thing about Kotlin. So compiler already understands. If you set it to 31, age to 31, it means that this is int. If you set height to 180, it's already int as well. And the same for every variable here. Let's see if it will break our program. No. Everything looks like it was before. So the refactoring is some process which is not changing the result of your program. It will just change the code, and it makes it better, it makes it more understandable and more maintainable. Well, today we learned quite a lot. We learned about variables, about primitive types, how to create them, initialize and reinitialize, how to print some output, and of course what refactoring is. Yeah, quite a lot of information, and I think this is it for today or for now, and I hope to see you in the next lesson. Thank you.